Nakakalungkot na balita ito para kay Tambalusto sa ating House Speaker of the House. Nako, na mikos-mikos ang ating Tamba Jingjing dyan sa Senado. Nako, napagtulungan sa mga senador. Unang-una ang ating Pangulo dahil hindi nagwagi. Talagang minsan, pag may masama kang plano para sa mga Pilipino, para sa Pilipinas, hindi talaga yung nagwawagi. Boy, nako, sayang ang tig to 20 million bawat isang congressman na pinamudmud mo. Umayon lang sa'yo. At 100 bawat isang signature. May tawaran pa daw, umabot pa sa 40 pesos. Yung 100 yan, umabot pa sa 40 pesos. Nako, na-bargain ang bawat isang Pilipino. Nagkatawaran na. 100 na lang. Ginawa pang 40. Nako, hiningin na lang sana. Makaawa na lang sana kayo dyan. Naglumuhod para lang sana umayon sa inyo. Eh, hindi nagwagi. Nako, malungkot na malungkot ang ating Tamba. Kaya siguro ng ibang bayan, ng ibang bansa, dahil sa kahihiyan, hindi natanggap. Dahil nabukelya ang kanyang mga plano para sa mga Pilipino. Ayun, maraming salamat sa ating Pangulo at sa Senate President. Nako, napagtalungan ang lolo nyo dyan sa Senado. Ayan. Good morning sa ating lahat. Magandang tanghali na rin po. Good evening kung saan sulok man tayo ng mundo at ng daigdig. Sana okay lang tayong lahat. Mga kababayan, panoorin natin to.
Good morning, everyone. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is an enduring symbol of our democracy, enshrining the foundations of our nationhood and reflecting the consensus of our citizenry. While we respect and recognize the people as our sovereign, with the right to call for constitutional change, we must guard against any attempt to revise the Constitution by exploiting our democratic processes under the guise of a People's Initiative. The People's Initiative on Article 17, Section 1 of the Constitution stoked fears of the unknown among our citizens. Any proposal to amend or revise the Constitution must identify the provisions being changed, containing their full text, but most importantly, must be forthcoming on the impact, effect, and true intention behind the proposed changes. Only then can they be presented for approval to the people, our sovereign, from whom all powers emanate. The proposal subject of the People's Initiative could lead to a constitutional crisis, destabilizing our bicameralism and upsetting the systems of checks and balances. While the Senate is vehemently opposed to a dilution of its participation in the task of reviewing the Constitution, we exercised all restraint because in any conflict, it is always the people who stand to suffer the most. For this reason, I, together with the leadership, Senate President Pro Temp Loren Legarda, met with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the leadership of the House of Representatives on January 11 before Divan de Honor in order to raise concerns on the proposed amendment contained in the People's Initiative. The President agreed with us that the proposal was too divisive and asked the Senate to instead take the lead in reviewing the economic provisions of the Constitution. In this way, we can preserve our bicameral nature of legislation. While the Constitution must be reviewed in keeping with the demands of the present and possibilities of the future, we believe that we must first exhaust all avenues open to us through policy making and legislation. That is precisely what the Senate did when we enacted amendments to the Public Services Act and liberalized many industries to attract foreign investments, encourage competition, and improve the delivery of basic services to our countrymen. The Senate stands firm behind the Public Services Act as a landmark piece of legislation that reforms our economic landscape. We, however, and I'd like to repeat, we, however, recognize that the case assailing the Constitution of Republic Act number 11659 or the amendments to the Public Services Act is currently pending before the Supreme Court. As such, the Senate commits that it will work with the House of Representatives to remove all doubts on the constitutionality of the law by ensuring that the liberalized policies contained in the Public Services Act can be implemented and relied on by investors as an enduring policy. It is only in this respect the Senate can agree to modify the Constitution. The framers of the Constitution deliberately ensured that modifying it will be an arduous process, never to be taken lightly. We wish to assure the people that in reviewing the economic provisions of the Constitution, we will be circumspect. We are guided by the knowledge that our sovereign is watching, and that the work we should do represents no interest other than the people's interest. So that is my statement. Like some of the investors. The question first asked is, do we need to amend the Constitution? Right? So now, we feel in the Senate that after passing the Public Services Act, hindi na po kailangan amendahan yung ating provision when it comes to economic amendments. Unfortunately, may pending case sa Supreme Court, marami pong nag-file. So, anong nangyayari daw, maraming natatakot pumasok sa bansa dahil maski na meron na po tayong batas, wala pong TRO, but what if after 1 or 2 years, the Supreme Court declares it unconstitutional? And once the Supreme Court declares it unconstitutional, paano daw nila babalik sa 60-40 yung kanilang mga investments? So, may rason. No? May mga mabibigat din na rason. And that's why we are open with the leadership of the Senate. We had several meetings with the senators after. We are open to discussions on the amendment of the Constitution on these particular provisions. But we are going to do it separately, voting separately. And that is why we have prepared a resolution now signed by myself, Senator Lauren Legarda, and Senator Sani Angara on the economic provisions, amendments of the economic provisions of the Constitution. So with this, we had asked the majority members had asked Senator Sani Angara to lead a subcommittee on the Committee on Constitutional Amendments to tackle this particular issue. We chose Senator Sani Angara kasi kailangan talaga natin dito ay abogado. So, with due respect, hindi ko pa nakakausap si Senator Robin Padilla. He's still abroad. But when he comes back, kakausapin po namin siya at magre-request po kami na kung pwede, para dito sa usapin na ito, we will ask a creation of a subcommittee for this purpose. So, just to make a long story short, we had a meeting, the chain of events that had happened. So, nakipag-meeting po ako kay Presidente nung Tuesday. And I raised the alarm about the People's Initiative. He was very gracious enough to meet with me, and we discussed how we can diffuse the situation. In fairness to the President, hindi niya po alam yung People's Initiative language was to diminish the powers of the Senate. And after that, he asked me to meet with the Speaker. We met with the Speaker. I met with him on Tuesday evening, after which we had lively and vigorous debate on the issue. And we all decided to meet with the President once again at 3 p.m. in Malacanang last Thursday. In that meeting, we were there early, so we met together with Senator Lauren Legarda, kasama po namin si Congressman Sandro Marcos, Sap Anton Lagdameo, and the Speaker and myself. In that meeting, we discussed the scenarios. And of course, I defended the position of the Senate na talagang malabo yan kasi as far as we're concerned, their plan is unconstitutional because we are a bicameral system of government. Kaya, nung pagkita po natin kay Presidente, we decided, the President, first of all, and I'd like to thank the President for his comment that the PI is too divisive, and even mentioned news items from the major networks that he watched the night before. At sabi, nagkakagulo na, bakit nagkakaganyan, may bayaran. And he even said na, and I thank the President for this, because he even said na, dati ako senador. Bilang dati senador, hindi din ako papayag na ma-undermine o ma-diminish ang kapangyarihan ng Senado sa pagdating ng usaping bicameralism or bicameral form of government. So maganda po ang direksyon ng Pangulo. And ang sabi niya sa akin at kay Speaker, sabi niya, why doesn't the Senate take the lead in the discussions of the economic provisions and then you approve your version which the House can adopt? So that was the position of the President. Para hindi na tayo maglalagay pa kung ano-ano pang mga amendments na sa tingin natin ay magagalit ang taong bayan. So, that was quite clear in the meeting. And that's why in the Van de Honor, medyo smiling na po kami ng Speaker of the House at ang Presidente ng Senado because we were able to resolve that very big issue. That night, nag-meeting po kami with the senators. We had about 14 senators that met that night and we discussed the possibilities. Nakuha ko naman po yung full support ng majority members of the Senate. We were also there. We also had a member of the minority there, Senator Rizzo Ontiveros. And of course, we said to her that we know their position, we will respect their position, but I'm being transparent. As the Senate President, I want to be transparent that these discussions will be taking place once the Senate resumes on January 22.